Hi guys. This is going to be part of the psychic abilities and psychic development series. And in this one, we're going to talk about mediumship. I don't know how long this is going to be. There might be a part two. But I'll try to keep it under 10 minutes. Alright, so where do I even start? Let's start with kind of how you even notice that it's something that you are able to do. All psychics can get there eventually, in my opinion, but it comes a lot easier for some people than others. So, one of the first things that I've noticed is, one of the first things that I have noticed is, like ringing in your ears, right? And then there's the obvious signs of spirits trying to communicate with you. So, you know, the lights flickering or being turned on or off, doors and cabinets and stuff like that being open and closed, you know, kind of some of the other, you know, abilities happening, like hearing somebody talking or footsteps and stuff like that. Like, those are all kind of signs that there could be a spirit that wants to communicate with you. You can also use mediumship to communicate with other beings. Like, you know, some people use it to communicate with angels. Some people use it to communicate with dark, you know, like dark beings. I mostly work with dark beings, with a couple of exceptions. You know, it just depends on the person. And then there's the obvious of just, you know, human spirits, people who have passed. So one of the first things that you should always do when you're trying to do mediumship is going to be protection. So find whatever method that you like to use. Some people like to use protective incense. Some people use protective jewelry. Some people use crystals. Like, there's lots of options, and I think I have a video on ways to do psychic protection. So if you guys have questions, let me know, and I'll maybe try to link that one. So you should always protect yourself. The next thing that you want to do is know who you're talking to. And I say that because it's definitely difficult to tell sometimes if you're talking to who you think you're talking to. And there are beings that I would call parasites that want to feed off of you, your energy, especially like negative energy. And they will come in if there is grief, you know, sadness, depression, fear, mental illness, stuff like that. And so it's not that you can't do mediumship if those things are a problem for you. I struggle with mental illness too. I do mediumship anyway because I generally know how to protect myself. You should also know how to get rid of things, which I think I also talked about in another video. But I'll go back and look, and if I can't find it, I'll do another video on that. So knowing who you're talking to, right? The best way to do this is, honestly, it's going to depend on, I guess, what you use as far as tools go, but you're going to need some type of tool, right? I use cards. I have used the pendulum in the past. It can be inaccurate sometimes. And so it's kind of hard. Like, don't do this, okay? Do not use a spirit board or a Ouija board. Don't do it, okay? If you think that's the way to tell if you're talking to who you think you're talking to, that is the worst possible thing you can do, okay? So do not use one. It's a very polarizing thing here on TikTok and honestly out in the world too. But I'm just telling you, don't do it. So I use cards. I use cards because, and in any deck really, you can find, even if you don't use it for like anything else, right? You don't have to learn how to read tarot. You don't have to learn how to read oracle cards if it's not something that you feel drawn to, or it's not something you feel drawn to yet. But you could just get a deck, carry it around with you so it soaks up your energy. Some people like to sleep with it under their pillow and stuff like that. Let it build up with your energy, right? And then pick a confirmation card, right? Pick a card that means yes, a card that means no, even if you learn nothing else about that deck. Because then you could tell, right? You could tell if who you're talking to is who you are trying to get a hold of. You can get, if you actually read cards, you can get more information from the spirit that way. And sometimes it helps you connect easier, because not all spirits are equal as far as the reachability, you know, as far as the knowing what it is they're trying to tell you, right? So when you start to develop your other clairs, you know, clairaudience, clairvoyance, those two in particular, then they'll be able to communicate with you in that you should be able to hear them, you should be able to see what they're trying to show you. It takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of trust in yourself, in your abilities, and in who you're communicating with, okay? So I would recommend starting with someone who comes through very clearly to you, all right? Also, if you are on my live tonight, you're gonna definitely know that this is true. If you have multiple spirits that are all trying to get your attention at the same time, let me tell you how much that will kick your ass. Like, I was so exhausted earlier. I did a mediumship, and we were doing a see who comes through, and then there was like 5 people. So that's a lot, right? Pick one person, or, you know, people that communicate with their angels, or people that communicate with a specific other being. I'm going to say demon, and all of y'all are going to run for the hills. They are not all equal. And dark does not mean bad, and light does not mean good, okay? We're going to leave it at that for right now. But pick a being that you can trust, you know, whether it's a guardian angel, whether it's a spirit guide. I recommend not starting with a human spirit, because they are usually not that great at getting information through yet to somebody who is new at picking it up. Some of them, they just, like, depending on how soon after their death it is, they're very confused. There can be a lot of emotions. It's just a lot. Okay, don't start with a human spirit. If you've got like a grandparent or something that passed like 10 years ago, maybe. But mostly start with some higher level spirit guide type beings who can communicate with you because they've been around for a really long time, and it's just something that they do. So yes, start there. Make sure that you are, you know, kind of stabilizing your energy first, and make sure you've got the protections up. And then you kind of want to, I'm sorry. You kind of want to meditate and kind of get yourself centered, and then you just start to listen, right? You just ask the question, what's important for me to know right now, okay? Because that's a good place to start. Then there's going to end up being a part 2 to this. So, you know, you're at this, all right, where do I, you know, what do I need to know right now, right? Which is the same thing that most people get when we do card readings, right? Unless you have a specific question. Okay, all right, there's going to be a part 2. It should be up next.